to move that the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, the 11th day of March 2025 be adopted. I so move, sir.
Distinguished Senator Ndubueze.
Thank you, Mr. President of the Senate. My name is Senator Engineer Patrick C. Ndubueze, representing Imo North Central District. I rise to support the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 11th March 2025. Having gone through it, I so support.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded. Yeah. Those in support of the approval of the votes and proceedings of our last sitting say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, let me acknowledge the presence of staff and students of Wonderful School Limited, Apo, Abuja. We don't have the right to change the names of the schools. So this is we want to acknowledge them, very beautifully dressed, resplendent, and looking very well fed. You are welcome to the Senate chambers to observe today's proceedings. May God take you back safely. You may be seated. We also have the staff and students of Genesis of Knowledge Academy. Do say? You're welcome to the Senate chambers. Very nice children. May God protect you and take you back safely to your school after watching today's proceedings. You may be seated. We have also the staff and students of St. Mary's Nursery and Primary School, Suleja in Niger State. I've seen my colleague there. You're welcome to watch today's proceedings, and I wish you very fruitful observation of the Senate proceeding of today, and also God's mercies and protection when you go back to your school. Have a wonderful day. You may be seated. Do we have any petition? Yes, and Senator Webwe.
Thank you, Mr. President. I remain Senator Peter Onyeka Ebonyi, representing the North Senatorial Zone of Ebonyi State. Before us, Mr. President, is a petition from one of my constituents. My name is Mr. Francis Chukuma Ozo. Writing through his lawyer, Mr. Deji Adeyanju and partners. Mr. President, the petitioner is a Nigerian resident in Dubai and has a lot of business in Dubai. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, on November 6, 2022, our client was transiting from Dubai to Abuja and had a cost of stopover at Addis Ababa. Mr. President, in the course of staying at Addis Ababa, the custom officers from Dubai, the custom officers of Ethiopia seized his $80,000 from 7th of November 2022 till date. Mr. President, the petitioner has suffered a lot of loss in his businesses and has come to the Senate for redress. With your kind permission, Mr. President, in view of the fact there is no legal impediment, we hope to approach the chair to lay the petition, sir.
Any legal impediments?
None, Mr. President.
Okay, you may proceed and lay the petition. The petition is hereby referred to the Committee on Ethics, Code of Conduct, and Public Petitions to revert to the Senate in 4 weeks. Any other petition? None. Point of order, dismissed Senator Zam.
Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues, I am Senator Dr. Titus Tatengizam. I represent Benue Northwest Senatorial District. Mr. President, I come under Order 41 and 51. With your kind approval, may I proceed to read the relevant order, sir? Order 41, matter of urgent public importance. The matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. Order 51, notice shall not be dispensed with in the case of a motion or in respect of any other proceeding for which notice is required, except with the consent of the President of the Senate and the general assent of the senators present. Thank you, sir.
Distinguished colleagues, Zam had actually referred this petition to me yesterday, and I told him that he should bring it up today. It has to do with insecurity, the burning of his house, and wanton destruction of properties in his community, and the killing of his relations. Those who are in support that he be allowed to proceed with this matter of urgent national importance, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You may proceed with the motion.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, urgent need for the federal government to deploy troops to immediately restore law and order in Gwe West Local Government Area of Benue State. The Senate knows that the peace-loving people of Jaruwa community in the formation local government area of Benue State were invaded by bandits masquerading as herders on Monday, 10th March 2025, resulting in the killing of 4 persons. Also knows that yesterday, irate youths took to the streets in protest against the continued killing of the people and government's seeming inability to protect them. The Senate may further note that the youth, in anger and frustration, burned down the Gwe West Local Government Secretariat, the palace of the paramount ruler of the local government area, my private residence, and houses of other prominent sons in the local government area, accusing us of inability to safeguard the community. Aware that I have on several occasions moved motions and presented bills on this subject matter, including bill on open grazing prohibition and ranches establishment, which is awaiting public hearing. The Senate also is aware that the Benue State House of Assembly had enacted open grazing prohibition law, which still subsists. However, the inability of the present administration in Benue State to enforce the law has exposed members of the National Assembly from Benue State to undue pressure and name-calling by our constituents. This situation has emboldened the bandits and further worsened the security situation in Benue State and beyond. The Senate may conclude that the incident attacks by bandits on Jaruwa community and Gwe West Local Government Area of Benue State will significantly impact on food production and agricultural activities, jeopardizing food security and livelihoods of the people in the affected local government area. The Senate will accordingly resolve to 1, observe silence in honor of the deceased; 2, urge the security agencies to restore law and order in West Local Government Area of Benue State with immediate effect. And 3, urge NEMA and the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs to send relief materials to the affected communities. 4, urge the federal government to liaise with Benue State government to enforce the open grazing prohibition and ranches establishing law of the state. And 5, mandate the Committee on Agriculture to visit West Local Government Area and have a first-hand assessment of the situation in sympathy with the bereaved families and all those affected by the crisis, and also to expedite action on the bill on open grazing and prohibition that I have sponsored here for quick passage into law. I so present, Mr. Senate President, distinguished colleagues. Thank you very much.
Distinguished Senator Abamuro.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, Senator Abba Moro. Mr. President, I rise to second this motion on a very, very sad note that the continued silence and inaction on the part of the government of Benue State is snowballing into the citizens resorting to attacking elected representatives and residents of the various communities under siege. Mr. President, on several occasions, issues of insecurity, especially in Benue State, bordering on herdsmen-farmer clashes, have been raised on the floor of this Senate. Mr. President, it's very sad to note also that rather than pick up the challenge of preserving lives and property, the Benue State governor on occasions have said that incidents that even amount to loss of lives are mere skirmishes. And in most cases, no statements of condemnation, no demonstration of empathy has been shown by the government of Benue State. Mr. President, as I speak now, those of us elected on the platform of this Senate are endangered species because our communities think, and unfortunately very wrongly, that it is our responsibility to provide security. And so, Mr. President, I think that these killings, this vandalization of property of people who the communities feel should be responsible for their security is one too many. And so I urge the Senate, in this particular instance, to take very strong view of this situation. Because we used to hear about farmers clashing with herdsmen. We used to hear about kidnappers. We used to hear about Boko Haram insurgency. But this one is about citizens who have been frustrated by these activities and are taking it on their fellow citizens. And so it's a very serious dimension to the current level of insecurity, especially in Benue State. And so, Mr. President, I want to say that we owe it a responsibility to condemn these activities and to ensure that we advise appropriately various governments, especially the Benue State government in this particular instance, to take appropriate steps to safeguard the lives and properties of the citizens. I so submit, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, in the chambers last week, we invited our security chiefs to come for a closed-door briefing on the general security of the nation. And they sent a message to me that they will be ready in a week. So I will expect that we will take them letters next week. And so this will be one of the issues we'll bring up. And there is nobody, in my view, that will be opposed to this motion. So while we sympathize with Senator Zam, the local government, the parliament, the traditional institutions, and also the government and people of Benue State, I think we should go straight into the prayers with a view that we note this down as one of the issues we'll discuss, whatever resolutions we come up with. The prayers. Observe a minute silence in honor of the deceased. Those in support of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. 2. Urge the security agencies to restore law and order in Kwe West local government area or Benue State with immediate effect. Those in support of prayer 2 say aye. Amendment, yes, Senator Udende.
Mr. President, my esteemed colleagues, I want to amend prayer 2 to read thus: all security agencies to restore law and order in West local government and other areas of Benue State that are engulfed in security challenges.
Yes, Senator Abamoro.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the amendment proposed by Senator Udende. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been amended, or the prayer 2 has been amended to say that we should urge the security agencies to restore law and order in Kwe West local government area of Benue State and other areas affected by insecurity, insurgency, and banditry with immediate effect. Those in support of the prayer as amended say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3 also urged the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, and the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs to immediately send relief materials to the affected communities. Those in support of prayer 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 4 further urge the federal government to liaise with Benue State government to enforce the open grazing prohibition and ranches establishment law. Those in support of prayer 4 say aye. Yes, Senator Idiot.
My name is Idiot Oluranti Adebule. I have a question. I have an issue with prayer 4. Further urge the federal government to liaise with Benue State. I think it is the Benue State government that should enforce the open grazing prohibition and ranches establishment law. It should be the Senate. It should be the state, and not to liaise. The federal government should not liaise. It should be urge the Benue State government to enforce the open grazing prohibition and ranches establishment law. Pardon me.
Any seconder to that amendment? Yes, the distinguished Senator Olarere. I should rather.
Mr. President, I so second as moved.
So, distinguished colleagues, the prayer 4 is amended to read: urge the Benue State government to enforce its open grazing prohibition and ranches establishment law. Those in support of the prayer as amended say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 5 mandate the Committee on Agriculture to visit Kwe West local government and have a first-hand assessment of the situation in sympathy with the bereaved families and all those affected by the crisis, and also to expedite action on the open grazing provision bill for its quick passage into law. Those in support of prayer 5 say aye. I have a problem with prayer 5. It is not the Committee on Agriculture. It should be the Committee on National Security. Chairman, Committee on National Security. It is not the Committee on Agriculture, in my view, that should go and visit and assess a war-torn situation. It should be the Committee on National Security that should do that. Because even if Committee on Agriculture goes there, after assessing it, they cannot take action. But if the Committee on National Security does so, they will be in a position to do so. So please amend the prayer. Amend prayer 5. Yes, Senator Saliu.
Amendment of prayer 5 should read as follows: that the Committee of National Security should rather take the visit rather than the Committee of Agriculture, possibly National Security and Livestock, but not Agriculture. So I so move.
Yes. Any seconder? Yes, distinguished Senator Shehu Buba.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, Shehu Buba, I hereby second the motions as amended by distinguished Senator Salih Mustafa, that the Committee on National Security and Intelligence and Livestock should embark on the visitation of the area. I so second.
Any other observation on that? Yes, distinguished Senator Binus Yaro.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Binos Yaro, Adama South. I think the focus of this prayer is because the bill for open grazing prohibition was referred to the Committee on Agriculture. And I think the purpose is for that committee to go and have a first-hand experience of this situation so that they can expedite action on that bill.
No, rather, what this motion is talking about is the enforcement of an existing state law, which was passed by the State House of Assembly, not an act of parliament. In our own case, we have a proposed bill, when signed by the president, if the two chambers should pass, will now become an act of parliament. But here we are talking about a law, which was promulgated by the State House of Assembly. So it's only the Benue State government that can. So, but I thought you would rather say that we should add a combined team of national security and intelligence, the police, the army, and possibly led by defense, to visit the area so that they can have a joint assessment of the area with a view to restoring security because of the request for permanent army location in the area. But if it is Committee on Agriculture, they are handling the open grazing bill, which has not yet been passed into an act of parliament. What do you think, Senator Binus?
I do agree with you, Mr. President, and I move as advised. Thank you.
Yes. Distinguished colleagues, the prayer is further amended by distinguished Senator Binus Yaro that we should mandate our Committee on National Security and Intelligence in combination with other committees of the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and Defense to visit the areas affected, undertake assessment of the situation, sympathize with the bereaved families and those affected, and also urge the Benue State government to expedite action on its open grazing prohibition law. Those in support of the amendment say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 5 is also amended. So let me thank Senator Omer. Additional prayer, yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Victor Ume. I represent Anambra Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, in view of the incessant killings in this West local government area over the years, I want to propose an additional prayer that the federal government should establish a military presence in West local government area of Benue State by establishing any unit where security people will be present in this local government because they've paid so much tolls with their lives in the past 8 years. I so propose.
Any seconder? Distinguished Senator Zam.
Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues, I'm Senator Dr. Titus Zam. I want to completely support the additional prayer as moved by distinguished Senator Victor Ume that a permanent military base be established in Gwe West Local Government area to be the watchdog over this community because it is totally overrun and we need a military presence to react instantly as these challenges arise rather than calling a military from Makurdi and wherever. I support the additional prayer in totality, sir. Thank you very much.
Distinguished colleagues, the additional prayer has been moved and seconded. Those in support of the additional prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So once again, let me thank distinguished Senator Zam and also sympathize with the good people of Benue State, particularly Kwe West local government area, over this attack, the killings and destruction of properties, and hope that with the resolutions of today, that succor will come to the people there, and the military base will be established in order to save lives and forestall future occurrences. So, in line with prayer one, we will now move to observe a minute silence for those who perish in this unnecessary crisis. So we may rise. May the souls of those who lost their lives in the recent attack and wanton destruction of properties in Kwe West local government area of Benue State rest in perfect peace. Leader of the Senate. No, business of the day.
Okay. Mr. President, very distinguished senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Wadada. Mr. President, very distinguished senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the fourth business day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of most distinguished Senator Buhari Abdul Fatai on the Sports Talent Search Scheme Establishment Bill 2025 SB 516. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate. Do it from there. It's okay.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Sports Talent Search Scheme Establishment Bill 2025, SB 516, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Sports Talent Search Scheme Establishment Bill 2025, SB 516, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of most distinguished Senator Annie Anthony Okorie on the National Youth Service Corps Act Amendment Bill 2025 SB 687. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, National Youth Service Corps Act Amendment Bill 2025, SB 687, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, National Youth Service Corps Act Amendment Bill 2025, SB 687, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of most distinguished Senator Saliu Mustafa on the Electoral Offences Commission Establishment Bill 2025 SB 740. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Electoral Offences Commission Establishment Bill 2025, SB 740, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Electoral Offences Commission Establishment Bill 2025 SB 740, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of most distinguished Senator Wemboy Onyeka Peter on the Federal College of Vocational Studies, Mbeke Isheke, Ebonyi State, Establishment Bill 2025 SB 742. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal College of Vocational Studies, Mbeke Isheke, Ebonyi State Establishment Bill 2025, SB 742, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Federal College of Vocational Studies, Mbeke Isheke, Ebonyi State Establishment Bill 2025, SB 742, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of most distinguished Senator Kingibe Ureti Heba, our able and indefatigable chairman of the Senate Committee on Women Affairs, on the Gender Equity Bill 2025 SB 743. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Gender Equity Bill 2025, SB 743, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Gender Equity Bill 2025, SB 743, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Well, Mr. President, Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is the second reading of the Federal College of Vocational and Technical Studies Establishment Bill 2025, SB 666. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber on Wednesday, 4th December 2024. Mr. President, you may wish to invite most distinguished Senator Oyewumi Kamorudin to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Distinguished Senator Oyewumi Olarere, our leader, you may proceed.
Well, thank you very much, the President of the Senate, my distinguished colleagues. I remain Oyewumi Kamorudin Olalere, Senator representing Osun West Senatorial District and Osun State. Mr. President, my very distinguished colleagues, it is my great pleasure that I rise in this hallowed chamber today to lead the debate on the general principles of this very, very important bill. This bill will seek to establish the Federal College of Vocational and Technical Studies in Ikire, Osun State. The bill was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber on Wednesday, 4th December 2024. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, undoubtedly, establishing a federal vocational and technical college like this will address the growing need for specialized middle-level skills that are needed in the workforce in Nigeria. It will equally provide opportunities for young people to acquire necessary vocational skills that are needed for employment in the labor market presently. This will help to promote economic growth and, more importantly, reduce unemployment. Mr. President, fellow distinguished colleagues, the technical and vocational institutions established by this bill
We provide acceptable certificates in middle-level technical training education expertise in areas like automobile and heavy-duty truck mechanics, electrician technician, panel and iron melting technician, fridges and air condition technician, building technology, paint manufacturing technician, dyeing and fabric artisan, furniture and woodwork artisan, corporate programming technology, tailoring and fabric design artisan, beautician, soap and detergent manufacturing artisan, among others. My fellow colleagues, as a country, we must, as a matter of priority, encourage technical skill acquisition to align with the global paradigm shift, especially now the artificial intelligence is taking over most of the human activities in the labor market. This will also minimize youth restiveness and other social fights in our country. Mr. President, my very distinguished colleagues, it is certain that this bill, when passed, will not only improve the career and technical education, which will make the trainer to be better equipped to face the challenges of modern times, but will make them live better in their society. On this note, I humbly and respectfully urge my distinguished colleagues to support the expeditious passage of this bill because of its inherent relevance to the socio-economic development of our dear country and its success to the human capital development of our teeming youth. In line with Order 76.3 of the Senate Standing Order 2023, as amended, a compendium of the financial application of the establishment bill hereby applied. Therefore, I urge all my district colleagues to give expeditious passage of this bill. Thank you, Mr. President and district colleagues.
Yes. Distinguished Senator Nengi.
Mr. President, my name is Dr. Abdul Ningi, and I represent Bauchi, Central of Bauchi State. I rise to support that a bill for an act to establish the Federal College of Vocational and Technical Studies, IKERE, be now read a second time. In addition to this, I would like to contribute to the debate heavily canvassed by our leader, Senator Kamaruddin. Mr. President, vocational school is a post-secondary education that opens up and the ability of the graduates to understand technical skills at a given time for a specific discipline. The fact of the matter is that as we are now, the world is a global village, Mr. President. The next big thing is, of course, technology. Every other issue, every other matter is not as important as technology. As the world evolves, you could see with the emergence of AI, the world is evolving very fast. And therefore, you need to have to plug the gap between SME skill, which this vocational institution provides, to a professional. It is important to underscore that when you have the mid-term ability in between the haves and the have-not, this is the one that will close and will have a seamless transition for development. Ikere, a bustling town in Osun State, deserves a vocational institution of this nature. A lot of us have passed through Ikere, and we could see through the history, through what you learned from other sources, this is a town that are so educated, but there is a little presence of government, of federal government presence in Ikere. I think once you are able to establish this vocational center and the graduates will be able to spread their knowledge to the entire country, I think it is important to underscore that this is a well-deserved program, and that when we were growing in the early 60s, There are vocational institutions all over Nigeria. As time progresses, these vocational institutions took a back seat. And I think it is time for their resurgence. It is important. Every other discipline is good, but what will be prevailing is technology. And therefore, this is a foundation for the emergence of a better developed Nigeria. I so support this bill. And I ask my colleagues to equally show interest and support this bill.
Distinguished Senator Father Honsi.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I rise to support my leader on his wisdom to bring this bill on Federal College of Vocational and Technical Studies, Ikire, in Osun State. When I read through the bill, I now find out that it is purely technology-induced college or university. When you read through, you will see that even the graduates of universities and polytechnic who are electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, and they don't have the practical experience, we still apply so that they can have practical experience and be useful to the nation. Most of our graduates nowadays, they are looking for white-collar jobs. Eventually, you find many of them as a fashion designer, tailoring, tailors, and so on. These are really practical institutions that will give them to be marketable all over the world. So the first one was read here last year. That's from the East. Those are the two we have identified now, including this one. And ZAN now. So in the whole country, comprehensive technical colleges, only 3. If the federal government could approve this, things will change for better in our quest to make Nigeria a technological based country like Ukraine. What do they have? This is the practical experience they have. So I appeal for the support of all my colleagues who want Nigeria to move up technologically to support this and approve this so that we can move forward. Thank you very much.
Distinguished colleagues, I don't think there is anybody who is opposed to this bill. Anything that can give our children skills outside the normal paper qualification, which may not necessarily get them employment opportunities as time goes by. And with the era of AI, artificial intelligence, and the fact that right now people who are doing middle-level jobs are all imported from Togo, Benin Republic, even those that come in to do ceramics, tiles, and all that. It is important that we equip our children with the necessary skills. So that even if they want to go higher, to read and obtain university degrees, they will still go in line with their area of study from the college. So if there is nobody supporting this or opposed to this, I want to put the question. Those in favor that this bill be now read a second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, I bill for an act to establish the Federal College of Vocational and Technical Studies, Ikiri, Osun State, to provide full-time courses in technical, vocational, and applied sciences, and carry out research, innovation, development, and adaptation of teaching techniques and for other related matters 2025, second reading.
Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to establish the Federal College of Vocational and Technical Studies, Ikire, Osun State, to provide full-time courses in technical, vocational, and applied sciences, and carry out research, innovation, development, and adaptation of teaching techniques, and for other related matters, 2025. Second reading taken. Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to establish the Federal College of Vocational and Technical Studies, Ikire, in Osun State, provide full-time courses in technical, vocational, and applied sciences, and carry out research, innovation, development, and adaptation of teaching techniques, and for other related matters, 2025. Second reading taken. This bill is now referred to the Committee on Education, Basic and Secondary, to report back to this August chamber within 4 weeks. So let me thank my brother, distinguished Senator Larry, for his thoughtfulness in bringing this bill, and thank all the contributors and those who would have loved to contribute for the unanimity in supporting this establishment of a vocational institute for the sake of the future generation of Nigerians. I think this will go a long way to create jobs for the teeming youths who may not necessarily require certificates in biology, in physics, and other areas in the nation, because these ones will be almost ready for employment immediately they finish from these vocational institutes after acquiring their skills. So I thank you for bringing this, and I wish the good people of Ikire luck in the opportunities given to them through this establishment. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is the second reading of the Federal University of Geomatics, Oyo, Establishment Bill 2025, SB 496. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber on Thursday, 4th July 2024. Mr. President, you may wish to invite most distinguished Senator Abdul Fattah Buhari, who is standing in for the sponsor of the bill in the person of Senator Akintunde Yunus Abiodun, to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Distinguished Senator Abdul Fattah Buhari.
Thank you, Mr. President. Buhari Abdul Fattah. Mr. President, I'm standing in for Senator Akintunde Yunus Abiodun, Oyo Central. Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues, kindly permit me to lead a debate on this very short bill, which seeks to provide for establishment of Federal University of Geomatics, Oyo. The bill was read for the first time in this Hallowed Chamber of the Senate on the 3rd day of July 2024. The proposed establishment is an upgrade of an existing permanent institution of higher learning known as the Federal School of Surveying, Oyo. It is important to state that it is the first school of surveying in Africa and the oldest technical training institution in Nigeria, having been founded on July 1, 1908, over 100 years ago. The school currently produces professionals in the field of geomatics, which include land surveying, photogrammetry, remote sensing, photolithography, hydrography, cartography, geographical information system, and other related courses for the surveying and mapping sector, which will serve the veritable purpose of boosting the nation's economy. Going forward, it will be in furtherance of the Renew Hope agenda of the current administration. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, geometry is the discipline concerned with the collection, distribution, storage, analysis, processing, presentation of geography, data, and geographic information. It consists of products, services, and tools involved in the collection and integration of management of geographic data, and it's recognized by UNESCO in its Encyclopedia of Life Support System. Mr. President, the scope of technological advancement in geometrics, which has revolutionized many industries and markets such as infrastructure, environment, security, and even healthcare. This has made the need for a specialist university absolutely necessary. This need is more glaring with the emergence of cutting-edge technologies such as cloud computing, artificial intelligence, geo-artificial intelligence, and machine learning. My distinguished colleague, the key objective of the university will be to A, provide modern teaching and learning methods in geometrics with the use of most advanced technology. B, reinforce the adoption and use of global positioning satellite, GPS, and general pocket radio service, GPRS, to meet the demands of climate change, minimize the impact of natural disaster, and provide data solutions to prevent security breaches. C, enable provision of desirable and critical data through pragmatic researches, accurate spatial analysis which will foster economic growth, gain more international outlook and affiliations such as the one currently maintained with reputable institutions such as the International Institute of Geoinformation Science and in Netherlands and the University of Beira Interior in Portugal. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the bill underlines legislative obligation to keep Nigeria on a track with the best possible international standard in teaching and learning, especially in the light of rapid technology advancement sweeping through all sectors in the world. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, as representative of the people trusted with the task of understanding and appreciating the value of educational growth as a critical tool for national socio-economic development, I urge that the enactment of this bill be considered critical and worthy of speedy passing. Mr. President, my distinguished colleague, ease of establishment is one factor to consider in passing a bill. I wish to state that there are no financial implications to this bill. The Federal School of Surveying boasts of both human and infrastructural capacity to seamlessly adapt to a new status as a university on the existing budget provisions. Mr. President, my distinguished colleague, I urge you all to support the speedy passage of this bill. Thank you, Mr. President, for giving the opportunity to read on behalf of my colleague.
The Chief Whip.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, my name is Mohamed Tahir Monguno. I represent Borno North Senatorial District. What this bill simply seeks to achieve is for the School of Survey in Ibadan to metamorphose into a full-fledged university for the purpose of training Nigerians on the very technical training concerning surveying, where we have shortage of manpower across the nooks and crannies of the country. Mr. President, distinguished senators, if we are able to have enough manpower in that technical aspect of surveying and geomatics, it will go a long way in averting the avalanche of border community crisis that we have across the nooks and crannies of the country, whereby we have professionals that will go and demarcate borders among states, among communities, and what have you. And that will go a long way in seriously bringing down the incidence of communities, border communities clashing among themselves as to the identification of their border line. And it's one of the oldest schools in Nigeria, established in 1908. So it is high time it transforms into a full-fledged university in order to give us the requisite manpower in that very technical aspect of geomatics, where we have that of manpower in this country. I support the second reading of this bill.
Distinguished Senator Ashiru.
Mr. President, I'm Senator Ashiru. Mr. President, I stand to firmly support that this bill on conversion of a long-standing institute of surveyor in Oyo State to a university be speedily approved by the Senate. The difference in this proposal is based on the fact that we are talking of an institution that be involved in in-depth study of surveyor that has transformed into geometrics. The understanding of it is that surveyor itself has metamorphosed over time, and the need of it in agriculture, in land administration, and even in war cannot be overemphasized. For us in Nigeria to move with the world, to have a better understanding of our environment, it is very necessary for us to graduate from ordinary surveyor institution to a more scientific one. And that's why I'm standing to fully support it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Distinguished colleagues, there's nobody opposed to this bill to establish this Federal University of Geomatics in Oyo State, particularly because of what it stands for. And there is already an existing institution of College of Surveying there. So it's just a question of upgrading it to other courses and probably acquiring additional land for it. So I want to thank you for all your contributions and now put the question. Those in support that this bill be done read a second time, say aye. And those again say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, I bid for an act to establish the Federal University of Geomatics, Oyo State, and to comprehensive provisions for its due management and administration, and for other related matters, 2025, second reading.
Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to establish the Federal University of Geomatics, Oyo State, and to make comprehensive provisions for its due management and administration, and for other related matters, 2025, second reading taken. Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to establish the Federal University of Geomatics, Oyo State, in Oyo State, and to make comprehensive provisions for its due management and administration, and for other related matters, 2025, second reading taken. And this bill is now committed to the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and TEDFORD to report back to the Senate in 4 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues. The third order of the day is the second reading of the Electoral Act 2022 Amendment Bill 2025 SB 412. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber on Wednesday, 15th May 2024. Mr. President, you may wish to invite most distinguished Senator Yar Adua Abdul Aziz Musa to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Distinguished Senator Abdul Aziz Yar Adua, I don't seem to see him. Leader of the Senate, you may wish to step it down.
Well, Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I've just been made to understand that distinguished Senator Yaradua is not presently in chamber. In view of that, sir, may I move that we step down the bill for another legislative day? I so move.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, I rise to second the motion as moved by the Leader of the Senate. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that we do step down to get the consideration of this bill since the sponsor is inadvertently absent. Those in support of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The bill is hereby stepped down. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I rise to move that the Senate at this time do now goes into a closed door session to enable us deal with some matters of urgent public importance. I so move, Mr. President.
Minority Leader, have you said something? You have seconded?
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I second the motion. Motion on executive session.
Distinguished
I
colleagues.
second the motion moved by the Senate leader that the Senate resolves into a closed door session to discuss matters of urgent national importance. I so second.
Okay, distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that we do go into a closed session to discuss matters of urgent national importance. Those in support of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So we proceed to closed session now.